All right. Here you go. Here I am. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on our stream for this week. And I'm excited to talk about this very important topic. You may think that it doesn't pertain to you, but it probably does. We're talking about crime and how it affects us, our children, because everything is now on the phone, on the internet. So we have predators everywhere. Unfortunately, the number of predators is not decreasing. So that's why we have Rania, who's the CEO of Crimestoppers, joining us today. So thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be talking about this with you.
Yes. And I want to say, yes, you are a CEO, but you are also a mother of 3 children. So shout out to all the moms and dads out there, because actually right before this recording, I was talking about really just the situation you deal with sometimes with kids and help and all of that. We get it, parents. We get it. And Rania is not just a CEO, she's an author, and we'll talk about her book in a few minutes. But first, I want to ask you, I know you've been doing this a while with Crimestoppers. What's like the most alarming thing that you've seen recently?
Oh, well, I guess the most alarming thing I've seen recently, I mean, moving past all this, the COVID scams and issues we saw specific to COVID, like the online solicitation of minors went up by 93% during 2020 because you had all these kids at home on their gadgets. I think the most alarming thing to me that we're watching right now is just the pure fact that crime in and of itself has become political and politicized, and people that are eager to just live in safe communities and safe neighborhoods are essentially being targeted to some degree. We've lost the ability to have honest conversations about really important things, and we need to get back to being able to have honest conversations and being able to talk about honest solutions, because I'll tell you, it doesn't matter where I go now, who I talk to. The number 1, number 2, number 3 concern is public safety. People are feeling nervous going out to eat. People are feeling nervous walking to their cars after running errands. Things have changed, and we need to address that. And so we've been on the forefront of any public safety conversation, and the need for our services is certainly amongst the highest we've seen in a lot of years.
And why do you think that is? Is it just the uptake in the amount of people that are using online platforms and social media? Because I know that is such a place where people pray.
Yeah, well, if we look at specifically the online world, I mean, the entire landscape changed with COVID, especially think of kids, all of these kids who were never online, second graders, first graders, all of a sudden, within a matter of days, even their entire connectivity with their school became digital. It became internet based almost overnight. So the world shifted, and we went to a place that we're not going to come back from. My own kids, your kid, we're all connecting and conversing more in the online space than we were just a few years ago. So when you add that and the reality that predators and exponential numbers are online, that the appetite for children and content and images from children has increased, that the value of that type of horrific imagery is skyrocketing in the online world. You see that we have a situation that we all have to be aware of. And let's add a different point. Beyond sort of the exploitation of children, we're seeing an increase in kids who feel depressed or suicidal ideation, self-harm, because they can't navigate this online space. Their brains are not ready to deal with what they're taking in, to deal with the responses they're getting online, positive and negative, maybe the attention they're getting online, or the influx of attention and all of a sudden the pullback of attention. There's just a lot. There is a lot to this space.
Yeah, definitely. And I read somewhere where it's like social media is in it of itself its own pandemic, because it's just so harmful out there. So if we've established the fact predators are out there, kids are on devices, TikTok, social media, other sites and stuff. So what can parents do? Because I've done stories on this and it is kind of repetitive, like monitor your children, do all that. But how do you actually monitor your child? how do you know that there's a red flag?
Well,
What do you do?
I mean, to answer your first question, before we even get to a red flag, how do we navigate? That's actually why I sat down and wrote the book. And during the onset of COVID, and I realized I'm not driving every day. I have an hour or two a day that I'm sitting in my home office. I took that time really early mornings to start putting all the research I had done for the last 5 or 6 years, a little bit more into this book. Because here's the thing, I don't care where you go. I don't care what part of town, what the kid looks like, good family, broken. I don't care about any of that. There are children that are, and I've talked to many of them that have said, I have found myself in a situation online I never, ever thought I would be in. Not only that, but I found myself in a situation online I don't know how to get out of. I can't get out of. And I talked to so many parents that said, I'm trying to keep up with the technology. I'm trying to figure out what the latest app is. I'm trying to figure out what the latest game is. I'm trying to make sure, do checks and check their phones and catch them and warn them. But it's changing so quickly, and I have a full-time job, or I have other children, or I just even have to go to the grocery store. I can't keep up with it. And then I talked to other experts that said, look, it's so dangerous. The only thing is we can tell kids is to just stay offline completely. And that's not fully realistic. It's just not. And in some cases, it's unfair. So it was time to create solutions. And so that's the whole point of this book, is a roadmap filled with actual solutions that parents will understand. I take 2.2 million apps and boil them down into 16 rules that will cover every app and any app you can imagine. And rules that kids will say, oh my gosh, I get that. Actually, I buy into that. And a roadmap that will stay with them, whether your kids are 8 to 28. And so my theory is to move away from the gotcha, I'm going to catch you, I'm going to entrap my own children, and move the online world into a place that we are able to almost, this is weird for me to say, almost co-parent with our children. And what I mean by that is, we're going to create a situation where we've talked to our children in an age-appropriate manner. They have buy-in on some basic principles. I boil it down to 4 big ones that we can use to keep them safe wherever they find the challenges of the online world are. Because without that, we're trying to attack situation by situation by situation, and it changes so quickly, and we get tired, and we stop talking, and they get embarrassed, and we soon lose control. My approach is, nope, we're going to go from the minutia to big picture. We're going to move away from the chaos and go to strategy and create a plan that really will keep kids safe moving forward.
What do you personally, since you're a mother of 3, do on a daily basis to try to help make sure that your kids aren't becoming victims?
Well, it's funny. Every single one of us, I'm sure, when we see our kids after school, we say, hey, honey, how was your day? It's normal. But we don't normalize discussions around online content. We don't. It's very rare. It's like, oh God, every 6 months I'll do a check-in, or maybe once a year I'll kind of app. No, we've normalized it in our house. Like, hey guys, how was your day? And then, hey, what's going on in the online space? Have you seen anything that's like weird or bothering you, or any questions you have? It's become a normal part of our conversation. Now, I'm the type of parent, and this is based on my research, before anyone in my home got a gadget, and parents will ask me all the time, well, how do I know what age my kids should get a phone? And I have a trick for that. But before any of my kids got a gadget, we talked about what they might see, what they might come across, what the responsibilities are. I kind of went through my 4 rules with them, and I laid a really solid foundation that now it's a matter of me checking in daily as part of a normal conversation. And it's normal for them to say, it was fine. Oh, Mom, I was on this app. I was playing a game. The weirdest ad came up. Like, it was weird. It was actually gross. Oh, really? What was the ad? Well, what are you going to do next time the ad comes up? Maybe just turn your phone down. It's about a 30-second ad during an app, during, these apps, these ads that come up while you're playing these games. So it's very normal for us. And it keeps us ahead of sort of the chaos and the drama of the online world.
Yeah, that is so insightful. I never even thought about that. Like, just normalizing talking about it and what you're seeing. And I mean, for those who have younger children like myself, you have YouTube Kids, which is like huge. And they do a good job with filtering. But even so, I feel like the time that me and you grew up, there was like less of all that even on TV. Like the Disney Channel was normal, like not, you know what I mean by normal?
Yeah.
Like I'm saying there was like innocent things. And
Yeah.
now there's a lot more that you're like, wow, I didn't know, you know, and my son we let him watch YouTube Kids, which is great because it's under the umbrella of YouTube Kids, so you're fine, right? But he said some, like, you know, he said stupid, and I'm like, where did you get that from? Like, and it was from one of the things that he had heard or what. So it is so important to watch. And Caitlin Monty, who's another evening anchor, you all probably know her.
Yeah.
We talk back and forth because our kids are the same age, and she says that she watches, like, one of the shows is Bluey, and she watches it with her kids to make sure the content is good. And she's actually learning from it parent wise, like how they do things and how, you know, they'll identify playing certain games as like a game, like, oh, now we're going to play kitchen, or we're going to play this, or we're going to do that. And, you know, one of the things that's very hard being in kind of the thick of it, not that you're not, is just giving them the cartoons or whatever and being like, okay, just let me do my stuff.
I know.
How bad is that? Like, how long is okay? I mean, you know, what is your kind of feeling on that with all your expertise?
So, I mean, one, I don't judge any parent because I'm like you, and I had 3 kids very close back to back, and just to even make a phone call sometimes it was like, how do I actually distract them long enough to make a phone call? So every single parent, or most every single parent, has had to give a gadget to just get a moment's peace in terms of focusing on something else. So I don't blame any parent for doing that. I think what we have to do though is have the conversation before. You know, we're going to use this. It's a responsibility. It's a big girl toy. It's a big boy toy, actually. And I want you to I want to outline with you what the roadmap is. So mommy's going to let you watch this show. And if the next video pops up, I want you to come and ask me if it's okay to watch it. I don't want you to deviate and go to another channel. If you see something that bothers you though, I want you to tell me, because let's not forget the Momo challenge, which was a very frightening picture of a distorted older woman's face, was popping up through YouTube Kids. And it was terrifying children. It's terrifying for me to
I mean, I saw it and I was like, what?
It's so scary. So before that could even happen, you have to tell your children, you know, you might from time to time see something that scares you. And it's really important that you tell mommy or daddy, and then agree on the time. So when I said earlier, like kind of co-parent, give them part of the control by giving them some of the responsibility and helping them feel that ownership of the privilege of using this asset. So little Billy, you know, we're going to agree that you'll have 45 minutes. And after that, we're going to take it, and we're agreeing that that's okay. You might be in the middle of a show. We're going to pause it and you'll watch it the next time. When people say how long, it depends on the age of your child, the maturity of your child, their developmental maturity as well. I mean, there's so many different factors. I think if a child's spending most of his or her time on a gadget, that's bad. And research shows that not only is it bad for them developmentally, you're actually ruining, you know, pathways in your brain. It's called pruning. Parts of your brain are no longer functioning, and your internal mechanism starts to kind of prune those parts of your brain. It's fascinating to read about. But they develop addiction to the technology. They develop depression. Again, you know, there's another thing that I always think about when people ask me about YouTube Kids. I notice that young kids will say, okay, mom, I'm okay with watching just one show. I want to watch Ryan or whoever, you know, and then they'll turn into, mom, why does Ryan get every single toy that is out? We don't get that. And then they start to feel bad about themselves. So we're not only dealing with, you know, the time and the potential for addiction or boredom or laziness or, you know, not moving around or obesity. We're dealing with an internal struggle because our kids are feeling jealousy or like they're less than somebody they're watching online. So there's a few different issues that come up when you are dealing with younger kids and the online technology. But that's part of why I wrote the book. It's how do you preemptively talk about all of this and cover it all with a few conversations, because I understand we need the technology. We rely on it. It has wonderful benefits. It's how our kids talk, connect, socialize. It's how they interact with some of their schools now. And so I don't want to take it away, but I do want them to have it in a healthy way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm guilty of it. So parents out there, for breakfast, I'm like, okay, because there's, multiple children. So here's your iPad, here's this, we give it to them and then we play afterwards or do whatever.
Yeah.
It's one of the last questions I'm going to ask you is for parents, it might be for older kids. There's this fine line, I'm guessing, with being a parent versus being a friend. So being someone that your child will actually tell you, one, the stuff that you want them to tell you, and then two, continue to trust you. So you're kind of like teetering on this, okay, I don't want to get upset with you for doing whatever, but I want you to tell me everything. So how do you go about doing that? Like building that relationship without losing the control of being a parent?
So there's a fine line between what you just said, being a parent and being a friend, and it comes with honesty. So, and I think this is one of the biggest things parents overlook. We all want to tell our kids, do this, don't do that. But we fall short of telling them why. And a lot of times it's, well, I don't want to scare them. I don't want to introduce concepts they're not aware of. No, if your kid is going to have a gadget, and that's what we're talking about, they're going to have access to an iPad or a phone or whatever. You have to have these conversations. You have to show them, I trust you and I love you enough to share this story with you because I want you to have every tool you might need in case this comes in front of you when you're in the online space. And that's grabbing the best of being a parent and the best of being a friend, and them understanding why you are ultimately drawing the line. If you feel like you can't have honest conversations with your children, then they are not ready to have any type of gadget. So let's look at the little ones you were talking about. If you can't tell your little one, honey, I'll give you the iPad, but if you see something scary, I want you to tell mommy, then they shouldn't have a gadget at all. They shouldn't. If you feel like that's too much for them, they shouldn't have it, because guess what? They will see something scary. I almost guarantee it. Even if you're having them watch Elmo, you can't control all the other pop-ups, all the other things that come through. You cannot. Plus, they'll be on other people's gadgets. You're going to go out to dinner with a friend and kids are going to switch iPads that don't have the same parent controls. They might go to a play date. They might be at recess and somebody pulls out a they're going to come across it. So my philosophy is, in an age-appropriate manner, based on the maturity of your child, be honest, share real stories in a way that they can understand. And that is parenting with limitations, but it's also being a friend that they can give and take with and talk to.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. A few weeks ago, I did our parent to parent was on the war in Ukraine and how you talk to your kids about it, because, we're all upset about it, obviously. And, you can't hide it from kids. And, our rule, obviously our household's a little different because both mommy and daddy are on TV. So a lot of times, if they want to see us, they'd turn on the news, but we don't watch, we just say, don't watch the news kind of thing, but they've seen it. So I asked my 5-year-old, like, hey, have you seen some like weird stuff on the news or on TV and so he just said, yeah, I saw all this like smoke and stuff and people sad. And so I had talked to a psychologist and basically explained, like, in age appropriate, language, it's like there's some people, like mommies and daddies, are sad because this is what's happening and all of that. And I think talking age appropriate is very important. So that's a big takeaway as well.
It's so important. And by the way, it gives our kids a sense of control. And that's very empowering for them.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So for the last 30 seconds, I want to show your, let's see here. Let's see how I can do this. There we go. Okay. So, all right. Can we do this? Add the overlay. Boom. Okay.
Oh, there it is. Yay.
Okay. It's taken me a little bit to kind of figure that part out, but here it is, folks.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you. I
Here
know.
it is.
I
The
can't
book.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can buy it on Amazon right now and it can be yours. So this is the book that Rania was talking about, The Online World, What You Think You Know and What You Don't. I definitely encourage you all to get this, and it would be a great resource, just like Rania was talking about, several steps on what can help you out with parenting, with what's out there. Very, you also work with Dr. Laura Berman and Sam Chapman. So it's a lot of great minds coming together to put this for you and your family to make sure that y'all are all safe. So again, be sure to check this out. Ronnie, I want to thank you so much for your time. And I hope that we talk again, because I know that we continue to just face all of these predators doing just obscene things. And it's just so important to keep the conversation going for us as well.
Anytime, I'm here. These are the most important conversations. And I thank you so much for having me.
You bet. You bet. Well, thank you all for joining us, all of our Facebook friends. And if you're on our website right now and YouTube channel, thank you. Thank you so much. So I will be sure to see you next week, where we'll be talking about another topic for parent to parent. So I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next week.